Alright. Gottoms Frogs is dead. I don't need this anymore. I'm just kidding. So yeah, we have a new build for Gottoms Frogs. It's not the same thing it used to be. This is what we got rid of. So, Plague was enabling Gottoms by himself. With what, an Urbellum? So you did Plague with Urbellum and make Gottoms, you looped it infinitely. And you had the card advantage with Thunder Dragons. So now we have a new strat. These are all Garnets, by the way, so it's nice that we're able to get rid of these. The new strat is we're bringing out 4 cards, and we're bringing in 3. So I almost always side in these 2 cards anyway. But now we have Dandelion as our plus engine. So there's a few really great implications of this change. So one of the cons is Thunder Dragon was thinning your deck, but also it was way more likely to be a dead draw, like if you drew double or something, or just contributing to bad opening hands. So now you only have 1 card doing that. So Bezel, just any sort of frog, is an upstart goblin in a combo deck like this. If it's in your opening hand, sucks, but it's also a target for Murray and stuff. But yeah, so this is how you kill people now, and this is how you plus. So this is what used to kill people, and this used to be how you plussed. And now, I used to always side in Heavy Storm, especially when I was going second. Now it's in the main like it always should have been. And the big change is I've always been on 3 upstart goblins and at 41 cards. But now we're at 3 upstart goblins and 40 cards. So things should be a lot more consistent now. And I'm just going to quickly explain a few things. So yeah, these also kill people. It's a little different, and I'll explain it. Wait, let's just go with the deck profile for now. So we have the regular engine with 3 subs. And this card's broken. I've heard a lot of people say like the best deck of the format's ultimately probably going to have this card in it. I think this might be the version. We have 3 swaps and 3 poisons as our draw engine. If you see any of my content, you know that I dig through my entire deck and I use these to basically be like a Dark World dealings or like a trade-in depending on what you're discarding, just to cycle through the deck. So all we're doing is we're pulling out swaps to shoot poison draws to draw, and then we put everything back with Pot of Avarice and Exodius. The rest of the frogs are like engine stuff. So you want dupe frogs for the final stable board state, which still exists. And they're just really great floaters for getting your swap to start comboing and stuff. 2K Bud also kind of counters a lot of decks, so that's really nice. Treeborn, we don't need 2 in this deck. You could run 2. I still haven't. Unifrog's a great toolbox card. Flip-Flop's a great toolbox card. People always want to cut 1 or both of these, but Flip-Flop is just incredible. If you're playing a grindy frog game, you need Flip-Flop. End of story. And Unifrog might be the single best individual frog, which is kind of crazy considering what we're working with here. Then we have Death Frog, my boy. His big purpose is that he is a level 5 non-tuner. And then the last frog is the newest edition Bezel. So I used to always side in Bezel for I have a video on it. It's my non-infinite OTK turn combo stuff. So now we have access to all that stuff, but also you can get it out of the way when you're drawing through your deck. So if we get a Substitoad plus any monster, then now Bezel's just yet another card we can put in our grave to increase consistency. And yeah, this also contributes to the big combo turn at the end. So that's it for the frog stuff. Now we have the Gottoms frog stuff, which this deck is now just combo frogs because Gotham frogs is dead. We got 3 Exodius. You put everything back, and it's also a monster on the board, so it's really easy once you've burnt through all your swaps and poisons to just get another 3-card dig. Sometimes it's 2 cards, but it doesn't matter. And then when you're done, it puts back all your real frogs for you to actually do frog stuff. So usually use like 1 to draw through your deck, 1 to set up, and then 1 to combo. Fishborg is the enabler. So, the reason why Dandelion is a replacement for Thunder Dragon is because before we were discarding Thunder Dragon as a +1 to get Fishborg going, and then when you Exodius, it puts back all the other Thunder Dragons, you immediately get that +1 again. So Exodius isn't directly a +1 anymore, but Dandelion's a +2. So when you pitch Dandelion to Fishborg, you're getting 2 tokens. So now you really have to worry about how much monster space you're taking up. But and it's also a little bit less consistent in that before you had 3 Thunder Dragons you were cycling through, you'd touch 1 and then pull the other 2 and you get the engine going. Now Dandelion could be on the bottom and you're missing your pluses the entire time. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So for the churning, we have triple Pot of Avarice, triple Murray of Greed, and triple salvage. So initially, so first of all, Pot of Avarice is really, really good in this deck. It's still been a toss-up as to whether or not my opponent should crow this or this. We'll see with testing, and maybe time will tell, but this is just a +1 that gets your engine going. So it's Exodius on steroids. Then before, what I was doing was salvage plus Murray. I would try to always pair them together, which is correct a lot of the time. If you can do that, you still want to. But if I have one and not the other, I am not holding on as long as I used to. I am just kind of using them as I need them. So salvage, if you're using salvage with an Exodius, you're trying to get your Substoads out of grave so they don't shuffle back in your deck. It's like making a Substoad like a draw. So that's really good. And then Murray, one cool trick I've been doing is you salvage, so you have a swap, sometimes you end on a swap. So you'll salvage for a Substoad that you ultimately want to end your turn with, and you'll salvage, the second card you'll salvage back will be a poison draw. You bounce a swap, so now you have a Substoad out of the loop, and Murray will put back the swap and the poison that you just got back. So instead of just having a swap in play and salvaging for a swap and a poison, now you're bringing back a poison and a sub, and you're still shuffling back the same two cards, the same sub and swap, but now you have a Substoad out of the way. And maybe you'll have to discard it to continue, but, you know. So that's my new play I've been doing. And, yeah. So, another thing, like I said in the beginning, triple upstart, but now it's a lot better because we're at 40 cards instead of 41. I still think it's probably correct post-siding to take one of these out, because a lot of your OTKs require, like, exactly 10,000 damage. But time will tell. And now we have the last 3 cards. So, 1-for-1 and Foolish used to only be enablers for Fishborg. So the only thing you were doing was, this was copies 4 and 5 of Fishborg, and then if you already had a Fishborg, then this was just the nuts, because you discard a Fishborg and search for a sub, and now you have everything. But now, 1-for-1's crazier, because you could sometimes have a Dandy in hand, and that's like this God hand, where now you have 2 tokens immediately, and sub can immediately start doing stuff. So that's cool. Alternatively, Foolish Burial is now a +1. Before, if you already had your Fishborg in place, then this is just a dead card that you just kind of pitched. But now, you can use it as a +1 for tokens. So, if you draw naturally into 1 Dandelion, you discard it, and then you have to use 1 Exodius to continue your combo. Now, when you draw Foolish later, it'll be a +1, because that Dandy's back in your deck with Exodius. Some of my teammates have been really pushing for me to run 2 Dandelions, but I really think 1 is sufficient. Alright, so that's it for the main deck, besides the last 2 sweepers. Oh, right, we didn't even talk about this. So now, before we had Heavy Giant Trinade at 41 cards, now we have Heavy and Giant Trinade at 40 cards. So this should be a lot more consistent. Winning RPS isn't as important as it used to be, so that's huge. And yeah, so one of the things, and this is still up for debate, but you don't have to do Iron Wall. This could just be like a Solemn Judgment or something. You could make your big stable board, and then just have a Solemn to protect it. But I think this protects Stardust better. Like, obviously a Solemn will protect any 1 card, but Stardust with Imperial Iron Wall is pretty strong. And then Duplock protects Stardust from being attacked, so it's kind of like this perfect little trinity of everything covering each other's bases. And yeah, so also with this version of the deck, I'm pretty consistently making 2 Stardusts when I end on my stable board state. So having an Iron Wall that you will be able to protect and threaten infinite next turn is really, really powerful. So, we don't have Gottoms loop anymore. Gottoms is out of the extra deck. I think I put a Chimera Tech in here as the card I didn't have in before. So what do we get? I will make another video demonstrating the full infinite combo, but your final board will look something like this. Where is that? Alright, so this is not lethal through triple upstart, or Gores or Trag. But once you get to this point, it is. Alright, so this is the final board we'll end on. I'll make a video demonstrating how to do this. Again, it's not too different than the Thunder Dragon stuff, but you are much stricter on your monster card zones. So it is possible to mess this stuff up in such a way that you kind of run out of gas, but once you get it going, once you get the first 2 or 3 steps correct, you're not going to run out of gas. It's just like the Gottoms loop. You can't mess it up. Yeah, so this plays through Trag and Gores, and if you're lucky, both Trag and Gores with an Urbellum. All 3 of these Armory Arms are on a Stardust. This could be anything. I guess it'd have to be a level 8, not necessarily anything. So yeah, maybe it'd be correct to make this a... No, this is probably correct. But yeah, so this is lethal through Trag and Gores, and the only thing that makes this deck inferior to Gotham's Frogs is Battle Fader. So Battle Fader actually stops us. Threatening Roar hurts a little bit more than it would have before, but you would know. You do a setup, and I'll explain that in the combo demonstration video. There's a setup you do where you clear out their back row before you go crazy into all this stuff. But yeah, so Battle Fader kind of stops us more than it did before. And it is kind of annoying because you can't just make a Brio after this and bounce it because it goes back to their hand. So you'd have to kind of do some convoluted stuff if they actually have a Fader to clear your own board, bounce your own wall, bounce their Fader, and then go back to a stable board with wall, in your hand. So this is kind of annoying, and this is why the deck's a little bit less strong, but I think the consistency is worth it. But yeah, so that's it for this deck profile. The side deck is not decided. The extra deck is basically the same as Gotham's Frogs, and the whole point is just, this is an update, and I'm going to have some more videos demonstrating these combos. And that's it for me. Thanks, guys.